How about we start with Audrey?
Hey, yeah, I'm Audrey Montgomery. I graduated in 2018 with a Bachelor of Arts in Film and majoring in film, minoring in theater. I currently work at People Store Talent Agency as a talent agent for commercials, digital talent, and voiceover. Yeah.
Marge, how about you?
Hey, everybody. My name is Marge Ramos. I am from the class of 1995, so I'm the OG in the group. I graduated with business administration and behavioral sciences degree with a minor in Asian studies. I am currently working as an assistant locations manager in the TV and film industry here in the thriving Atlanta film industry, and I'm also doing some field producing for commercials, small docuseries, that type of stuff.
Awesome. Okay, Gabriel and Jessie.
Go for it.
You want me to go first?
Yes.
All right, I'm going first. Hi, I'm Jessie Dean, and I graduated Oglethorpe in 2003. My concentration or my major was theater. And I am a freelance writer and actor, and I am also the Associate Artistic Director of Molière in the Park, which is Prospect Park, which is in Brooklyn, Prospect Park's first free theater. So I wear a lot of hats.
You also teach.
And I also teach. Oh my God, yeah, I'm teaching. Teaching acting right now.
I'm Gabriel Dean, and we are married. We're not brother and sister. We met at Oglethorpe. I also graduated in 2003. I am a playwright and screenwriter, and I teach as well at Muhlenberg College in Allentown, Pennsylvania.
Yes, that leaves me. So my name's John Burke. I'm class of 2011. I was a Spanish major at Oglethorpe, and I'm a musician. I'm a composer, so I've done film, video games. I write my own albums, and then I gig all over Atlanta, jazz at cocktail parties, I play my own concerts, and then I do a lot of production work here at the house. And I have a wonderful cat who's going to join us on this this panel today. His name's Ziggy.
Nice. I'm glad you introduced the cat as well. All right, so let's dig into our questions. So for our panelists, know that you are welcome to answer, but you don't have to feel obligated to answer every question as we move forward. All right, so my first question is for you to reflect on your time at Oglethorpe. What is one dynamic club, group, organization that you are a part of from your Oglethorpe experience that has benefited you in your career?
Is this like open-ended, like anyone just jumps in?
Yes.
Okay, I'll start. OU Singers all the way. Yeah, that's right. You guys have Erwin Ray?
Yes!
We did.
Yes.
Love that man. Love that man. Yeah, Singers, totally. I reflect back on Singers all the time, whether it comes to any type of teaching that I do. I mean, I frame a lot of my teaching around Dr. Ray and his amazing classes. But just the music skills that I learned in this course were incredible, and they've helped me in my career now. Totally, Singers.
For me, it was being part of the international club. Diversity was awesome during my time. A lot of different nationalities. I am a native of Philippines, so it was nice to be part of that, culturally diverse organization. I also was on Alpha Phi Omega service fraternity. So just to be able to serve my community was very impactful to me. As far as a course, I would say, and you guys will probably not remember this professor because she left before you guys came in. Dr. Vicky Weiss was very impactful to me with her critical thinking and creative writing classes, learning how to compartmentalize my thoughts and really, look at it piece by piece and looking at the big picture and then articulating that has really been a valuable tool in my professional toolbox.
We remember Dr. Weiss.
Yes.
When we were there. So she'd moved up in the academic ranks.
Right.
We actually stayed with her, or we wouldn't stay with her, we visited her when we went to Oregon Shakespeare. She lives in Ashland, Oregon now. So we visited her. I guess now we should talk since I've...
you opened it. I would say that the Oglethorpe Theater Department was just pivotal in my life. I mean, it brought us together, but it started, I think it started us both down the career path of being theater artists for the rest of our lives. And I really attribute that to Troy Dwyer when he was there. He was there for a short amount of time, but he, yeah, you do. Yes.
Yep.
Troy was just, he was just such a great, fantastic professor, but gave us such a great foundation for going out and giving ourselves a voice in the world. And that was super important when, at a time in your life when you don't feel necessarily like you have anything to say. He taught us that you actually have more to say than you think you do.
Yeah, I would second Troy. I wasn't a theater major. I forgot to say my major. I was creative writing. I was an individually planned major, creative writing major. So theater was definitely important for me, but also the Tower Literary Magazine. I was really involved with that while I was there. I was editor for 2 years, and my relationships with, hopefully people remember them, Dr. Taylor, Linda Taylor, and William Brightman, like the yin and yang of the English department, were really pivotal for me as a writer. I remember having a meeting with Dr. Brightman. I'd written an essay about Wordsworth, and I had sort of made it personal in some way, which was a real no-no with Dr. Brightman. And I thought it was the best thing I'd written. And he was like, you know what? I think maybe you should think about creative writing. It's a funny thing I have. And then I didn't take many more Brightman classes after that, but nonetheless, he was pivotal.
Nice. Yeah, I would piggyback off that. Theater absolutely was a great part. I had so much fun being part of the theater department as well as the film department. The classes I took at Oglethorpe in film and theater allowed me to get a lot of hands-on experience in production, which is very rare. They give you a camera on your first year, which no film department ever does. And it also taught me how to work well with others to get a finished product. And the professors were fantastic. I love the professors. Jessica Handler, one of the best. Any student now who asks me, hey, which writing professor should I take? I was like, Jessica Handler. Take Jessica Handler. She's really good at enhancing and making your writing better, and just critical thinking and creativity, encouraging that. So yeah.
Wow, great answers, guys. So my next question, how did you decide what you wanted to pursue, or that you wanted to pursue a creative career? And then does what you studied at Oglethorpe reflect what you're doing in the field now that you're working in?
100%, man, 100%. I think that I think I speak on behalf of a lot of people in creative industries. I think there are plenty that had, a goal from the beginning. I'm going to be working in arts. I'm going to be working in music and theater and dance and whatever. I wasn't that, actually. I had music that was always on the side. I was actually a music minor. Again, I was a Spanish major. My goal was to be a diplomat. I wanted to do foreign affairs. I studied Spanish and I studied abroad, which was at Oglethorpe, and it was wonderful. And I even got my master's in public administration at Georgia State. So I had like full-fledged, I'm going into music, or I'm going into government work. But I guess I'm speaking on behalf of all the people in creative fields, is that there's just this, it's just who you are. You really can't deny that you love the arts, you love writing, you love acting, and whenever you have these opportunities, you'll fight at everything you can to make that work. And whenever you can find a way to make it your career, that's the best part. But I think the biggest things that I got from Oglethorpe are not just the classes. Of course, I loved singers. I loved my music classes. I even did sister classes at Georgia State, where I would take theory there and then come back to Oglethorpe. It was like this ARC program, this cross-registration program. But it was really just the people at Oglethorpe. I mean, they loved it. I worked with theater a lot. I think I did some one acts. Do they still do one acts? I'm sure that they do.
I think so.
Okay. Well, anyway, I got involved in that briefly, and that was really fun, and I loved being a part of it. But it was just the people. There was just this culture of, yes, you can be in the arts, and it's not an impractical degree. It's not an impractical pursuit. And that's really what helped me kind of get into my career, and having professors that I still reach out to now. Just never break those relationships. That was really important in helping define my career as a musician.
My path is a little long, so sorry, bear with me here. My path is I'm not a writer. I've never been involved in theater. I'm not a creative person, and here I am working in the creative arts. But I think it's basically not really pursuing just one thing, but it's a series of stepping stones. And that's kind of where I ended up, because I actually had a corporate career. I worked in HR for many, many years. And then worked in different industries, worked in sports, logistics, and special events, which actually landed me where I'm at right now. After a few years of being out in the professional world, I kind of came back to Oglethorpe and worked there for a while. And it was my job in the special events department that led me to work in the TV film industry. So long story short, a lot of films commercials had come through. I was offered a job right on the spot by a producer. So I quit my OU job and went full-time in the film industry. And 7 years later, I'm still here.
Nice. Yeah, working in the arts was something that I've always wanted to do. That was something I did in middle school, high school, college, obviously. And even though what I do now isn't exactly 100% reflection of what I studied at Oglethorpe, I'm not behind the camera as much anymore. I'm not in front of the camera, but there's definitely some carryover, that collaborative aspect from the classes that I mentioned earlier. And that's something that I do every day. Our team is very collaborative and communicative to ensure that a project goes well, and that a contract is edited and worded properly, and that we're getting a good rate and good opportunities for the actors and influencers that we represent. So I'm able to, it's really nice because I'm able to help a lot of actors and influencers kind of do what they love to do. And it's the best part of my job.
People's was our talent agent before when we lived in Atlanta, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Rebecca's my neighbor. I grew up down the street from Rebecca.
Oh my gosh, I love Rebecca. That's fantastic.
Yeah, we should talk to you because we're back in Atlanta now. So.
Oh, you guys are back in Atlanta? Seriously? Yeah, no, email me.
We're riding out the pandemic, right?
Oh my gosh.
I mean, you go first, because I feel like I lost my train of thought.
I'm really just good at the transition.
Okay, you do the transition.
So anyway,
you did.
I
okay. The question was, how has OU helped you build your artistic career?
Well, I think I was similar. I guess I'm similar to Audrey in that I kind of had done the arts ever since I was 7 years old, essentially, and it was mostly theater, and I started writing more seriously when I got to Oglethorpe because of Dr. Taylor mainly, who said, I remember this too in a meeting once. She was like, "You're an actor and you write poetry. Why don't you try writing a play?" And I thought, oh yeah, that's a really good idea. that's probably something I should do. And it's beyond just the arts part of it. I think the liberal arts education that I got at Oglethorpe, I come back to that constantly. I mean, I went to graduate school at the University of Texas, and that was to study very particular playwriting and screenwriting. But I was so glad that I had that underpinning of just a really good liberal arts foundation. I think that has made me much more of an artist, a writer with curiosity, with perspective, and also has made me aware of my own blinders in a lot of instances and able to do the research to get past those blinders if I can, to talk to the right people who don't have those blinders on. Yeah, so just the core curriculum at Oglethorpe was really, really important for me, I think.
Yeah.
Still is to this day. I mean, and teaching, I teach at a small liberal arts school, and I'm constantly channeling, Dr. Brightman, Dr. Taylor when I teach.
Yeah. I think that the fabulous thing that Oglethorpe gives you is a really good underpinning of critical thinking. The way that you are taught to think and embrace your own ideas and your own experiences and bring them into the classroom is something that that as an actor you're required to do every day. And now that I'm teaching classical verse right now. So what I learned, I was also an intern at Georgia Shakespeare Festival when it was on campus. So so the education that I got from Georgia Shakespeare Festival is like directly linked to what I do now. But I always go back to the idea that Oglethorpe taught me how to think. It taught me how I specifically learn and how I think and how I can take any text, I can take any material in front of me and I can dissect it and I can question it and I'm not afraid to dig deeply into the material. And that's not something that I think you get with every college education.
And just adding to that a little bit, just wanted to add that a well-rounded education, being able to troubleshoot and think is so critical in the film industry, because there's a lot of moving pieces, a lot of logistics, some you have to figure out on your own. In my job, because we do select a lot of locations that go into a film, we work with the producers, we work with the production designers, the directors, we read the script, we dissect it. If we can't replicate the set on a stage, then we have to go find it. A lot of times things don't go according to plan. You have irate neighbors, communities not too happy, you have traffic, construction, you're going to impact so many people and businesses that you have to think quick and fire from the hip. So I think having little pockets of knowledge, in different facets, really, I think trained me to be well-equipped in my job.
Yeah, so I guess as a follow-up question to that would be, what is something that you wish you had known or had been privy to prior to embarking on your professional pursuits? Tough question.
I feel like that it's not always going to be easy, but it's always going to be worth it. I think no one told me that at Oglethorpe. I think I learned that the hard way, just being out in the world, but that your path is not always clear, that you will not always have the answers that you're looking for, but that you continue and that you continue on honestly and as yourself is extremely valuable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think as an alumni, the power of relationships is really something that I wish I knew. I mean, I at the time, I knew that I had a lot of great relationships. I really did, and not only with students but with professors. But the value of those are I can't even explain how valuable they are, especially years later after graduating. I mean, a lot of even business that I've gotten has been from connections that I had at Oglethorpe. People who moved away. Someone who says, oh yeah, I remember you, we were friends, we took one class together, but I've got this opportunity for you. Or I still work regularly with one of the music professors at Oglethorpe. And it's doing projects that I'm really passionate about too. So the power of relationships, and there's that networking term that just kind of scares everybody, but networking really isn't just, I don't know, it shouldn't be something that you're really, that you should be afraid about, but there really is power in working with others and trying to collaborate as much as you can, and also just taking interest in other students' pursuits. Like, it's really great whenever I got to connect with other musicians on campus, but at the same time, I liked connecting with other people who were studying international affairs, who were studying English. Building those kind of relationships at that time have been well worth it many years later.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that, John. It's really all about who you know, and going to these, when we did have networking events, but going to the networking events and knowing how to make those connections and develop those relationships, that's a big asset that I kind of wish was a little bit emphasized more at Oglethorpe as well.
I believe this is a Dolly Parton quote.
Yeah.
But I really wish that I would have heard it when I was younger. Figure out what's weird about you and do it on purpose. You know, I don't know if that's perfectly Dolly Parton, but it's a summary or a paraphrase of what she said. But yeah, I think that's true for, you know, whatever artistic medium you're in. If you're a writer, if you're an actor, if you're a musician, just whatever is unique about your voice, really lean into that. Don't try to imitate. Don't try to be, you know, the writer that you. Don't try to live that life that you think you're supposed to live. But just genuinely be who you are and continue to do it on purpose and get better at it. Get better at being you. You know.
I wish I had learned or knew about picking your battles wisely, especially in the, you know, it's gritty in the film industry, and there are some things you have to let go, some things that you really have to battle to the end, and some that it's just not worth it. So we, like in my job, we battle with the creatives a lot because you know, they have a creative vision that is sometimes delusional. It doesn't exist. But we have to make it come true somehow, because I am part of a logistics department. That's what, you know, locations is in the TV and film world. But, you know, we make it happen. But like I said, it's like sometimes, you know, there's nothing really in the books, academic, that will prepare you for situations like that unless you've been through the fire. So
yeah, it comes with experience. Honestly, I would agree with that.
Okay. So we often hear of the starving artist, you know, trope. What is do you have to look for other sources of income as you were solidifying your career?
Yes.
Definitely.
That's the short answer to that. I mean, I think we've been out since 2003, but we've just gotten to a place where that's not really true anymore. Got there, and crossing our fingers, it's still lasting during the pandemic. So let's see. But I mean, I've done everything. I've walked dogs. I've babysat. I've done some things I don't want to tell you about.
We did real estate to fund our theater company when we just graduated. When I was in grad school in Illinois, I picked up odd jobs just so that I could buy groceries every week. There was, what did we do? Once we got out of grad school and landed in New York, we had to pick up odd jobs just so that we'd be able to pay rent. You know, you have to be willing to do what it takes in order to make those things that you want to accomplish accomplishable.
Yeah, it's part of the hustle. I mean, idealistically, you wouldn't have to work 4 jobs to have a career in the arts, but we won't get on that soapbox at the moment. Be happy about what happened recently. But anyway.
Just like what Jessie was saying, I kind of want to piggyback off that, where you have to be willing to do what it takes. And you also have to realize that there really is no stigma of like having a job on the side, but still pursuing the arts. A lot of people think that, you know, if they wait tables or they work wherever, whatever job that is not as, let's say, for a musician, you can still call yourself a musician, but have a job that even takes up more time than being a musician does, because you are who you define yourself as. Right. And if it means that, yes, I'm not making as much money as I can to pay rent by playing every Friday night at the local jazz lounge, whatever. If I have to do this during the day, I don't care, because this is what's going to help fund that. But as long as you keep that end goal in mind and realize that there really is no stigma, I think that's another thing I'll say about earlier of what did I wish that I knew? I wish that I had told myself it's okay to not have the job you want right now. It's okay to be working on the side. I still do some jobs here and there that aren't like, I'm a composer, I have to do composing. But no, like I have a few piano students that I teach via Skype. I don't like teaching, but I have students and it's fun, right? I'm glad none of my students are on the line right now. I do it because it gives me enjoyment. It challenges me as a musician, being able to break down things that are kind of complex that I take for granted. But it also is some extra money, right? And it helps me pursue my dream as a composer, right? Just releasing that stigma and realizing it's okay. And like Jessie said, you are willing to do what it takes.
Yeah, it's that balance, and that balance is very tricky to find sometimes, but I agree with you. There's a lot, we represent some actors who, even though it's not a guarantee all the time, they lean on commercials to fund their film acting dreams, which, but it is definitely possible to be a working artist. And I don't think necessarily you have to be a starving artist. You can get those jobs and still be an artist. As John said, it's how you identify yourself and how you represent yourself. And
if anything, sorry.
Oh, you're good. I was just going to add that the versatility actually helps you to be an artist, because you get more experience than that realm you want to be in. You can be an actor, but then also work at a marketing firm or a doctor's office, and you get a lot of different experiences that could help you to be an actor. If you got to act a scene that you're in a hospital, it's like, well, I know exactly what I got to do in this situation. So that versatility definitely helps stretch the artist's knowledge and imagination at the same time.
I would add to that just that the starving artist trope is a trope for a reason, right? You don't have to starve. I mean, that's the point, that there's this whole idea that you must suffer to be a great artist. I don't think that's necessarily true. I think it's good to have health insurance. And one of the things that, John, you reminded me, I wish that someone would have told me, was put money away, even if it's just a little bit every month. Just put a little bit away, because it adds up over time. And there will be times, even if you have a big financial success, the way that this career works, it's ups and downs, it's highs and lows.
Yeah.
There will be a time that you need to dip into that. And it's good for you to have it. I mean, especially if you don't come from a place where you can ask mom and dad for that.
Right.
Especially with a pandemic, if there's one thing that we learn is you can't be too prepared, especially having your contingency or your something in your piggy bank. But the TV and film industry is a highly freelance, gig-based industry, so you have to start chasing your next gig before your current gig ends. So in a way, it's like, excuse me. There are periods where I feel like I'm starving because I have that gap. So I always want to make sure it might not be the big TV show that I worked on. It could be a small commercial. It could be an independent film that a friend of mine is working, that I'm not really working for free, but I'm working for free, but it adds on to my production credits. So I do have to keep that in mind, and that's just the nature of our industry, is you have to chase those gigs to make sure you're set for the next few months. Typical for us is 3 to 6 months of a typical TV show, even shorter for commercials, it's days. Movies can be short as well. Once they're done with Atlanta, they're off to Morocco or something like that. So I have to make sure my working days are accounted for money-wise. So yes, I do starve every now and then.
Okay. So what is the most enjoyable part of your job? What are some obstacles that you ran into early on, like booking gigs or auditioning, etc.? And then how did you navigate them?
Well,
go ahead, Audrey.
Oh, sorry. Well, definitely one of my favorite things, and I kind of mentioned this earlier, one of my favorite things is when I call an actor and tell them that they're booked on a job, whether it's a commercial, voiceover, industrial, or print gig. It's definitely the most rewarding, because you, as an agent, you work so hard to make sure that this deal not only goes through, but that it's a good deal for the actors. And that requires a lot of negotiations, which I had to learn how to be a good negotiator, and I had to learn how to pick up the phone and draft an email properly. And it's rewarding because those bookings can change an actor's life. We've had actors come to us with goals saying, I want to develop my hosting career, or I want to book a SAG national commercial. And within the next year, with their hard work and dedication to the craft and us negotiating and working hard to make sure that they get the opportunities, they complete their goals. And it's really rewarding when everyone wins and you get to see the actors, like you're at a restaurant, it's like you see the commercial, it's like, that's our actor, we got him that. It's exciting.
I'll say earlier, I said, the stigma of, getting a job on the side and being an artist on the side. I fought my family. I fought my friends. They saw that I followed this path of a Spanish major. I went to grad school. And I even sold health insurance. Man, I worked in collections, which was actually kind of fun because you're on the phone and you're automatically right. There's nothing like
Oh, that sounds nice.
It was really fun. All right, so that's just, I'm going off a tangent. But whenever I decided, like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to be a musician. Like, I've booked gigs here and there, booked some weddings, and I played in some churches, I played in some temples, I played for some choirs. And then I just said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to leave my job that gives me health insurance, that gives me this, that gives me that. I'm just going to try and make it work. And my family was against it. They said, this isn't smart, John. I don't think this is right. And I had friends who say that, like, who say, oh, you're a musician. Well, what do you do for a living? That was a big thing to battle, is just society. But then at the end of the day, you have to just push that aside and you'll prevail. You will absolutely prevail. And it's a good feeling when those that doubted you, you come back at them and say, hey, look at this, So it's that was a big thing to battle, is whether you have a family member who's pressuring you, or friends or whatever. That was a big battle, a big obstacle to that cross.
I think for me, it was never the world. My family's always been really supportive, maybe because they didn't know any better to some degree. But it was self-doubt, actually, that was my issue. I suffer from major imposter syndrome. When, I'd have a big opportunity and I would be stepping up to the plate, all the things go through my mind. Like, I don't deserve to be here. Why am I here? Why is everyone looking at me? Which is weird, because you're an artist and you ultimately really want to be looked at and respected and admired. But it's a real thing. I can't remember who said this. I'm like the king of quotes tonight. But it's something like, self-doubt is what makes you a good artist, so you don't want to ever get rid of it. But I think you have to figure out a way to turn it off and on. And you have to know that you're here because you've arrived at this place that you're at because you deserve to be here. Otherwise, you wouldn't be. And you have to just really believe that. Otherwise, the people around you start to doubt you as well. That's sort of been my biggest thing to overcome. I still struggle with it, but I struggle onward.
Can I say one of the best?
Oh yeah, I forgot to say the best thing. Yeah.
Are you going to say what I'm going to say?
I don't know.
Are you want to say it at the same time?
I don't have.
Okay, we're not saying it at the same time. I think one of the best things that has come out of being an artist is that we have created opportunities to work together and collaborate together, which is something you were not going to say that. You were such a liar. I love you. At Oglethorpe, we got a chance to work together. We were in singers together. We got a chance to sing together. We were in the theater department together. We got a chance to act or direct each other. And then out in the real world now, we've gotten a chance to, I've gotten a chance to produce and act in one of Gabriel's shows. We wrote a movie script together. We wrote a play together that's being done at Northwestern, a musical together that's being done at Northwestern next year. So there's just a lot of creative opportunities for both of us together, which is something that has been like the sweetest part of being an artist.
Yeah, we've kept, going back to John, what you said, we married our best collaborators that we met at OU. But outside of that relationship, we still, we founded a theater company in Atlanta right after Oglethorpe, and 90% of the people who were involved were Oglethorpe
alumni.
Yeah, and still to this day, we still work with people that we met through OU, and not all of them theater people.
Yeah.
One of the best parts for me is seeing the fruits of our labor. Ours is very, visual, because locations is one of the main characters, I would say, in a film and in a TV show. So to see, after all the hoops and hurdles that we went through, the terrible experiences, and then seeing it on the screen is very fulfilling. And then reaping those rewards, being recognized for it. I worked on a couple of shows that had, were credited for the locations. Sleepy Hollow is one of them. I don't know if you guys remember that. And then a small TV show called Ozark. So those are, yeah. Nice. So we, for locations department or locations professional like me, that to us is for a non-creative department. We feel, that our fruits of our labor help create and establish that story. So that to me is really fulfilling, aside from, the camaraderie that you develop with the production crew, because you spend so much time together. And then, but because you also spend so much time together, there's the potential for conflicts. So that, I think, is one of those obstacles. You can't be over eager. You can't, try to be in charge of everything, because you can't. We are also highly unionized. So there are union rules that I can't just, pick up a camera and test it out. So there are those I had to overcome that just by being observant and just see who the key players are in the game, and then just stay in my lane, do my job, and do what I'm told a lot of times.
So John Burke touched on this earlier, but we also networking and internships are vital to our success, both during and after college. So what are some steps that you'd recommend in marketing ourselves and getting the exposure needed to get into the workplace?
I would definitely say, make sure you have a good resume and a good cover letter. Those are very key. And then also talk to the alumni at different events. We actually, when I was looking for interns for our internship program, I went to a lot of Oglethorpe events, because I was like, I know Oglethorpe students. We've had Oglethorpe students as our interns before, and they've been really successful. So I know that's a reliable place to go. So make sure that you guys have your materials up to par, and that really speaks volumes as well. Because we usually look to our interns first if we need a position to be filled. And so, yeah, it also helps to have, if they're looking for an internship at a talent agency specifically, it helps to have some office experience or some production experience in your background. And it also helps if you're looking to be a producer, director, casting director, or an agent of applying to a talent agency for an internship. It helps to give you a sense of what those careers are like, and that will be really good experience for the students. And also ask questions when you're in the internship. When you ask a lot of questions when you're in the internship, it tells the employer that you really want to learn about this industry. You want to get as much experience and as much knowledge as possible, and it's really a positive thing.
Internships are definitely a way to go.
Very important. Absolutely. Yeah. Go ahead, Marge. Mm-hmm. You gotta keep going.
Okay, so that was my gateway to, I had a corporate career before. So my junior year at OU, I was an intern at the Coca-Cola company, and that was my gateway to my first big girl job. So it doesn't necessarily have to be just in the creative arts, but yes, internships is that's your job interview for your next big thing. And other than that, as far as the TV and film industry goes, be prepared to work for free and be willing to do it. It doesn't matter if it's a friend's project, it's an independent, you're not gonna land the big one just yet. Look into, there's commercials, music videos, the Georgia Film Academy, volunteer at a film festival whether it's the Atlanta Film Festival or some other smaller ones. You'll get the experience, you'll meet people. It gets you active. You're not just exchanging business cards, but you're actually doing the work. So that's really key in the TV and film industry.
Yeah, piggybacking off what Marge said, I was actually a People Store intern in between my junior and senior year. And then they asked me to come back for the internship the spring of my senior year. And then they asked me for the job when I was right before I graduated. I was like, yes, please make me an agent. I'll be happy.
And a lot of the times internships aren't necessarily things that you go onto a jobs board and find. Like a lot of the times internships, you can just offer it. Like I knew a professor who ran a small jazz orchestra, and I said, hey, can I intern for you? Like, just give me stuff to do. And I loved doing it. It was great. And I learned a ton about his organization. I learned about nonprofit organizations in the arts. And all I did was just come up to him and say, hey, would you be open to this? I'll work for free. Like Marge was saying, there is going to be a lot of work that you'll do for free. And again, there's no shame behind that because it is a part of the grant, it is a part of the bigger vision here. Absolutely. I would say that, I think I just answered a question about it, is someone was asking, how do you find opportunities? And we're talking about networking. And yes, it's great to network. It's great to reach out to people. It's about who you know, but it's also about who knows you, right? And I think what's really, really important is to constantly create. If you're an artist, if you're a writer, if you're a film director, if you're a musician, the biggest strides in my career have been when I have made a project and flown it out into the world. And most of the time, I'll admit, most of the time it's come back fruitless. Like I'll expect like, oh, can't wait to get all those payments coming in. Can't wait to pack out this. I played a concert that I marketed for months and like 4 people showed up, right? But those 4 people have always come to my concerts. They have always stuck around and they always share my music with someone else, right? But constantly create. Even if there is no money at the end of it, even if you are losing money at the end of it, create. And then the biggest part next is collaborate. Because when you create and people ask, all right, I want to find opportunities. Well, make an opportunity. Say, hey, if you're willing to work with me for free, I want to write a play together. How about we meet on Zoom? And these are things you can do during a pandemic, right? Mm-hmm. You don't have to make money off of it now. You can make money later, right? Don't make money the goal. Just like I'm going to create because it makes you a more versatile artist. It makes you have a broader connection because people will remember, right? It's like, oh, that person looped me in on their project that they made like 10 years ago. Absolutely, I'll help them out. Absolutely, I'll be a part of whatever they have going on next. That's been my biggest stride, is creating and collaborating with other people. And that will definitely make opportunities for you and them. So it's great.
Yeah, I'm piggyback on that for writers that are listening. Content is king. You have to have, you can call yourself a writer all day long, but if you don't have content to give to someone or to put up in front of someone, then in their eyes, you're not a writer. You may be writing in a closet somewhere, but unless you have something to show. I mean, case in point, my honors thesis at Oglethorpe was really my first play that I'd ever written. And I had the audacity to invite like all the artistic directors in the Atlanta Theater Company, because of course they were going to come to see my honors thesis reading at Oglethorpe University. Well, lo and behold, one of them did. Richard Garner, who was the artistic director of George Shakespeare. I mean, it wasn't very far for him to come to see it. So, but he saw it and he loved it, and he spoke to the new artistic director of Actors Express Theater, who was then Jason Menedakis. You just come into town, and he said, "This is a playwright you have to know." And then I get an email from Jason Menedakis who says, "Hey, I loved your play. I can never produce it at my company. It's not right for us. But would you like a full-time job as my marketing director?" Yes, in fact, I would. So invite people, put your content out there, and make sure that even if you don't think, the big deal producer is going to come and see it, invite them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really good point, Gabriel, because when we see an actor, when we talk to actors looking for representation, one thing that we also look for is a reel would really help the actors kind of differentiate the people who are kind of green to the people who are like, I got some experience under my belt. I kind of know what I'm doing in front of the camera, kind of thing. So just making sure that your materials are really good and really strong, and that you have like a good reel or a good writing sample really helps a lot. And that's kind of something that I do wish Oglethorpe also, there was never a collaboration with the film and theater departments to help the actors develop a reel, or the directors or the cinematographers develop a reel for their future projects. So that's something I do that's also something I do kind of wish was more emphasized at Oglethorpe.
Okay, well, I guess now will be the time we will take virtual questions from the crowd. So for anyone else that has any more questions, please introduce yourself and provide your class year and what you're majoring in, and then type your question into the Q&A. So we have a few of them already. We can start answering them. So for Gabriel from Sydney Jones asks, what steps did you take to become a screenwriter?
Yeah, I'm still taking them to this day. I really started taking screenwriting seriously when our first child was born, which was almost exactly 6 years ago. I took some screenwriting classes in graduate school, but it was something that I thought was like this pipe dream that'll never happen. I got an agent, a theatrical agent in New York, and they very much encouraged me to do screenwriting, and so I kind of had to learn it. I had these 2 classes in grad school under my belt, but then I didn't really know what I was doing. I kind of had to learn it on the fly by myself, and this sounds stupid almost, but I bought like the craft books. I went to like the store when there were still bookstores, and bought the craft books and just read them, and kind of taught myself over a couple of years, and then luckily booked a couple of projects and was able to kind of learn on the fly. But I knew the lingo enough to not sound like a total green person in the room, even though they knew it was my first gig. So taking the onus to teach yourself, but there are programs out there that are available. Like if you don't want to go to grad school, you don't have to go to grad school. There are classes for screenwriting. I'm sure there are some in Atlanta. I don't know any off the top of my head, but I know there are like nonprofit film organizations that offer like writers roundtables and things like that. I would get involved with that. And then really the biggest part of that education has been watching a lot of film and TV, and then looking at it with a writer's eye instead of just watching it, for pure entertainment, dissecting it, breaking it down, knowing when the beats are hit and why they're successful. But just doing it on my own, kind of.
If you want to watch a movie and never have a spoiler, then don't watch it with us.
Nice. So also from Sydney, she says, I am majoring in creative writing, and I was wondering how you were able to do that since it's an IPM at OU. Was it an even divide between English courses and writing?
Yeah, it was it was an IPM for me too then. Come on, Oglethorpe, creative writing. We want. I took poetry. I took fiction. I took autobiography or memoir. Like, I'm 20. Why am I writing a memoir for myself? But nonetheless, I took it. And then I did what John was describing. I did some cross-registration. I took playwriting at Emory. But then I took journalism as well. So I was trying to get myself a really round education in terms of writing. And my first real, writing gig was as an intern at Creative Loafing, which was through an Oglethorpe alum who, Jerry Portwood, who had taken classes as an alum with me. I met him in Dr. Taylor's class. Now he's like the editor of Rolling Stone. He's incredible. But he gave me my first job at Creative Loafing. I think I answered the question. Did I answer the question? I got lost because my child's screaming.
There's a child screaming and one going in a bath, so all bets are off at this point.
If I can just add to that, Sydney, in the real TV world, the writers, the screenwriters that we work with, because my department, we do work with screenwriters, because sometimes we have to change a script. We have to change the trajectory of the next few episodes. A lot of them came from all walks of life. They didn't, major in writing, or it was just, it fell on their lap. It was a self-discovery that, later in their 30s and all that. So, don't be discouraged. You don't always have to be shooed into something, because it actually adds more flavor, if you will, to scripts, the stories, the vision, when you've experienced different careers and have seen the world. So, we see that a lot in the real world.
Okay, so Stacia Kingston says, hello panel. Gabriel, remind me, was your master's 100% in person, or was it a low residency program? Could you speak a little about your graduate studies, and how did it change / shape your creative path?
Is that for Gabriel or for everyone, or for?
I assumed it was like another question to this first one. I don't know. You can.
All right, let's talk about our grad studies.
Okay, we'll talk about grad school.
Go.
You want to? Okay. For me, I spent 3 years studying classical acting at Illinois State University under the direction of Henry Warnitz, who used to be the artistic director of Oregon Shakespeare Festival. A lot of people don't know Illinois State, so sometimes I have to introduce it sort of as the Juilliard of the Midwest, because all of the folks who founded Steppenwolf went there, John Malkovich went there, Jane Lynch went there, Laurie Metcalf, Gary Sinise. So it's got a lot of very prestigious alumni.
Jessie Dean.
Jessie Dean went there, guys. No. So it's got a great reputation. I went into it thinking that I wanted to teach. I wanted to get an MFA so that I could teach. Yay, Redbirds! Yes, thank you. Thinking that I wanted to teach, thinking that was my trajectory, because I was an actor and director and teacher here in Atlanta for 7 years before I went back to school. And I sort of felt like I had hit a ceiling in Atlanta, that I'd done the things that I wanted to do, and that I wanted to go back, and I wanted to have a broader base of knowledge. I wanted to get really deep into theater and into my craft, and I wanted 3 years of just study. So I thought I went back to grad school for education, and then when I graduated, I had opportunities to perform. And so I had this, this path that I thought was mine that maybe wasn't. And then after I performed for a while, I thought, well, what else can I do? If I can do grad school, if I can do 3 years of starving and rolling around on the floor in the dark, pretending various scenarios, then what else could I do? So then I started writing, and I wrote a book, and then I started figuring out that maybe that was my path. So I think what grad school gave me was the confidence to do things that were outside of myself. The confidence to be something outside of myself that I never thought was possible, and to embrace those impulses, to really go after them when I felt them, and in that way, I feel like you grow not only as a human being but as an artist.
We went to graduate school. We were already married, and we went to graduate school exactly 1,000 miles away from each other. I was at University of Texas, Austin. Hook 'em horns, they're me. Horns out there. I went to the Mishner Center for Writers, which I think part of the question was it in person? Yes, it was an in-person program. The Mishner Center is great for any writers who are listening. You can be a screenwriter. They take screenwriters, poets, novelists, and playwrights. And it's 3 years. You don't have to pay for it. They pay you, and it's actually a living amount. You get to live in Austin for 3 years. It's a great, great program. It was my first choice. I thought there was no way in hell I was ever going to get into it. By some stroke of luck, I did. And yeah, it was fantastic. I mean, we had, kind of cut our teeth in Atlanta and really honed our voices based a lot on each other. And so being apart for 3 years was really great, because we could really focus on our individual voices. And then coming back together in New York, we have bigger fights, which are great, because now we know our voices.
Yeah.
But the question about brief residency program for writers, I teach at one currently at Spalding University in Kentucky. I think they can have a lot of benefits. If you don't know what brief residency means, it means that you get to stay wherever you live. They're really great for like, you know, people who have children or people who have those big jobs that pay for their health insurance and put savings in their bank, but they want to write and they need you know, focus and deadlines. They're excellent for that. I think they're slightly better for novelists and poets because there's not the collaboration element involved. At Spalding, we try to replicate it in some way with screenwriters and playwrights, but it's not the same as, you know, being in the same room with your collaborators. So I'm happy to, you know, if anybody has questions, you can find me on Facebook or something. I'll answer more questions about the difference between those two kinds of programs.
Okay, I realized I missed a question in the chat. Sydney also asked if, is it okay to reach out to you all for help with internships and more information?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, great. So yeah, question from Maya Taylor. She says, hello, my name is Maya Taylor. I'm a theater major and film minor and heavily interested in directing and casting directing. For Gabriel and Jessie, I am also looking into grad school. Would you prefer an in-person education or virtual? And did you find you fully found your artistic voice in grad school, or did you ever consider getting your doctorate? Why and why not? That was a lot of questions, but I can repeat any if you need.
I mean, do you ever really find your full artistic self? Like, is it always, I think it's the search that's the fun, right? It's the trial that's fun.
I think I might quit if I found it.
Yeah.
You know, like if
someday you were like digging up your own grave, being like, "Where's my art? This is my artistic self," and it was just like a skeleton that came back. And you're like, "Rah!"
Yeah, I think that's. I mean, to me, I say this to my students all the time that if you don't enjoy the struggle of writing, it's not a career for you, because that's to me that's what it is. I mean, like there are these, you know, 95% of the time it's you alone in a room, like probably sweaty, barely dressed. Drinking coffee in front of a computer. Like it's not glamorous at all. And then the other 5%, if you're lucky, has some like glamour to it, you know? You get to meet cool people who are way cooler than in my case, than me, for sure, and hang out with them and hear them say your words on stage. Yeah, I mean, I have considered getting a PhD, but I'm old. I'm sort of like, why at this point?
You're not old.
I mean,
you just feel.
I just don't think I could be like in a graduate school setting now and with people who are a decade younger than me and not be the crusty old guy. So there's that. Sorry, that's my real raw answer.
I think as artists, you're always curious about what comes next. What else do I do? What else am I? And I think that's the thing that fuels you as an artist.
Yeah.
So maybe yes, if you're an artist, of course you've considered more schooling, because it's a place of curiosity. It's a place where you can ask big questions of yourself and of others.
I mean, this is the thing I should say. I always say this to people who ask the grad school question. So we're not going to get a 6-figure job necessarily when you get out of grad school as an artist. Hopefully you end up there. So my advice is to go where you pay the least to go. In fact, if you can swing it, go where they pay you to go. And really examine that in the programs as much as you possibly can. There are some programs I think that are actually criminal in how much they charge artists to go.
Oh, I have stories about auditioning for those programs.
Yeah. And then the other part of the question, virtual or in person, I mean, I think, you know, for writers, there are good virtual programs out there for sure, but I don't think as an actor that that's a possibility. But you should answer that question.
No, I mean, I always feel like in person is the way to go when you're studying any sort of performing. That's not to say that anything on Zoom is less than. I think you can get a lot out of a Zoom, out of an education on Zoom. But I do think ideally in person for performing is the way to go.
Okay, well, if anyone has any more questions, they can type it up quickly now. But that was all the questions we have from the audience right now. So I guess I'll just say thank you all for attending, and a big thank you to our panelists. A recording of today's conversation will be available soon, as well as all the bios and information for our panelists. And yeah, thanks again.
Thank you, everyone. And for those who attended, we do have an OU Insider event that's happening tomorrow virtually with Weston Manders. But thank you so much for talking on creative careers. I hope everyone has a great night.